Hi guys, I'm Miss Emma and I'm here with Eckerd Public Library's Learning Through STEAM program to walk you through a quick, easy, fun STEAM activity that you can do at home. And the activity that we're doing today is focused on the concept of liquid density. Okay, we all know what a liquid is, right? Could be water, could be oil, could be something super thick and kind of goopy, like corn syrup. So that part makes sense, right? We're going to be working with liquids. But what does density mean? An easy way to think about density is to think about it in terms of heaviness. An item that is dense is an item that has weight or heaviness to it. But Miss Emma, everything has some kind of weight, right? Even water has weight. That's exactly right. So why do we care about liquid density since everything has weight? Because not everything has the same weight. Have you ever held a bottle of oil in one hand and then gone and gotten a bottle of shampoo and held it in the other hand? Maybe you want to pause the video and go grab a couple different liquids, right? Maybe I put water in one hand and oil in the other. And I can tell you right now, just kind of by holding it, that the jar with oil feels just a little different than the one with water, right? It's not like a crazy difference. I don't hold it and my hand doesn't slam down onto the table. But it sits differently in my hand. I can kind of tell by holding it that maybe this one takes just the tiniest bit more effort than this one. And that's what density is. So every liquid has some kind of weight or density to it. And so what we're going to practice today is taking 3 different kinds of liquids. I have water, and I dyed it bright red so that you can see it. I have olive oil. And if you guys have ever worked with olive oil before, it kind of already has a color, right? And then I have corn syrup. And I put purple food coloring in there because I wanted it to be really obvious which one was which. So I have 3 different liquids. And I'm thinking that they probably each have a different density. They all feel a little different. And so I'm thinking that if they feel a little different, maybe their density is a little different, right? So our activity today, we're going to take 3 different liquids, in my case water, oil, and corn syrup, and we're going to see which one rises to the top if we pour it in 3 different combinations. The only requirement for your containers is that you want them to be see-through so that when we pour our stuff in, we can see what happens. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour bits of these 3 liquids into here, and I'm going to see which one rises to the top. And I'm going to do that 3 different times in different combinations because I want to see, does the same one rise to the top every single time? So the first one that I have is just really simple, right? I'm going to go in order of what I have sitting in front of me. So I'm going to pour a little bit of water in here. I'm going to pour a little bit of oil in here. And I'm going to spoon a little bit of my corn syrup in here. And I just spoon this one because it's really goopy, right? And now I'm just going to kind of watch. And what I'm seeing happen is that even though I poured my corn syrup in last, it went right to the bottom, right? And there's some water that's trapped throughout the entire thing, but my oil stayed right in the middle, right where I poured it, right? But what's really cool is that on top of my oil, I can see a layer of water. But I poured the water first, right? So how come my water ended up on the top? Well, I'm not sure. So let's maybe set this one aside, right? And let's try a different combination and see, maybe it was just something weird happened and my water didn't want to do what it wanted to do. So let's test. So now I have my second empty jar, and I'm going to start by pouring a little bit of my oil in here, right? And I'm going to spoon some more of my corn syrup in here. And now I'm going to take some water. And I'm going to wait for a second, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, guys. I poured my oil in first, right? But just like the last one, my corn syrup, it went straight to the bottom. And just like the last one, well, some of my water kind of got trapped in between the corn syrup and the oil. I definitely have a layer of water that went to the top. So my two jars look an awful lot alike, even though I changed the order that I poured stuff in. Okay, so one, this was kind of cool, but two, is that just a coincidence? I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. I want to make sure that I'm getting the same result every single time before I kind of make any assumptions about it. So I'm going to try one more time. I have one more empty jar here. And this time, since my syrup always ends up on the bottom anyway, it seems, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to see if maybe if I put my syrup on the bottom this time, it'll change its order. I have my layer of corn syrup. Okay, so the water somehow seems to always end up on top, but I want to see, I'm going to put the water in the middle this time. I'm going to pour the rest of my water in there, and my oil, in the ones I've done so far, somehow ends up in the middle. So I'm going to put it on top and see if maybe it just stays there, right? So I'm going to pour my oil in there, and I'm just going to sort of take a sec to look and see what happens. Well, one, my syrup didn't move, okay? So in all three, my syrup just stayed. That oil that I poured on top, guess what? That went to the middle. And while some of my water got trapped again, I think I can see a little layer of water. So it looks like it kind of did the same thing as the other three, right? So why? Why do you think no matter how many times I changed the way that I poured my liquids in, it always ended up the same way? If you have ideas, now's a really good time to put them in the comments box, or to write them down so that you can share them with us through our email or on our Instagram or our Twitter. Have you thought of a reason why no matter how many times I pour it, the liquids do the same thing? It's because they all have a certain density. So our corn syrup, it's a heavy liquid, right? It's a dense liquid. And what do heavy things do? If I take a brick and I throw it in the pool, what do you think that brick is going to do every single time? Sink, right? It's going to drop to the bottom. And why does it drop to the bottom? Because it's heavy, right? It's dense. So that's what our corn syrup did, is our corn syrup. So no matter where in the process I pour it into my jar, it's gonna sink to the bottom. Now my oil. Remember when I picked up my oil in my water jars and I held them in each hand? And remember how I said that the oil one felt just a little different, maybe just a tiny bit heavier than the water one? It's because oil is kind of a medium heavy liquid, right? It's not as heavy, it's not as dense as our corn syrup. And we can tell that by when we stick our finger in it, right? We can feel that difference. But guess what? It's heavier, it's denser than water. And so what happened in each of these jars, and as they've sat a little longer, you can see even more how they've kind of separated. What happened in each of these 3 jars is that no matter which way I poured my 3 liquids in, they separated the same exact way. And that's because my corn syrup is the heaviest, the densest liquid. And so even if I pour it on the top, it's always gonna go to the bottom. And my water is my lightest, my least dense liquid. And so even if I pour that on the bottom, it's always gonna end up going to the top. So what happens when I take my jars now and I just scoop them all into the same one? Do you think they'll do the same thing? Let's see. See? It's still separated. Isn't that so cool, guys? So hopefully you took a second to get your materials and you kind of did this along with me. And maybe you try liquids that I didn't even mention. I would love to see your results. Make sure to take pictures and you can drop them in the comments box. But share with us, let us know how this went, and make sure to tune in next week. Keep learning, have fun, and I'll see you soon.